Day 6 of testimony in the George Zimmerman trial brought us a truly riveting narrative from the mouth of George Zimmerman himself in the form of multiple recorded interviews of the defendant by Sanford police. Zimmerman is charged with second-degree murder in the killing of Trayvon Martin. He has pleaded not guilty, claiming self-defense. But this day may have been crystallized when Officer Doris Singleton read a statement written by Zimmerman in which Zimmerman refers to Trayvon Martin as the suspect.
In a darkened area of the sidewalk, as this dispatcher was asking me for exact location, the suspect emerged from the darkness and circled my vehicle.
In that statement, Zimmerman repeatedly uses the word suspect to refer to Trayvon Martin, and prosecutor Bernie De La Rionda even asked Officer Singleton about this.
He uses the word suspect to refer to Trayvon Martin. Have you uttered those words, or have you informed him in any way that's the word he's supposed to use to refer to Trayvon Martin?
No.
Whatever happened, whatever ensued between those two men, that man and that boy, whatever the legal determination of this jury is about whether Zimmerman's actions meet the legal requirement for second-degree murder, what is clear is that in George Zimmerman's eyes, this person walking around was a suspect. He was a suspect. And a recording of a lengthy interview between Zimmerman and Officer Singleton was played at trial today. Here's part of it.
And you'd never seen this guy before? I don't recall. It's always dark. They always come around nighttime.
A videotape of lead investigator Chris Serino's interview with George Zimmerman the day after the killing of Trayvon Martin, the scene of his death, was also played for jurors today. Here's just part of it, in which Zimmerman describes his version of the last moments of his altercation with Trayvon Martin.
That's when my jacket moved up and I had my firearm on my right side hip. My jacket moved up and he saw it. I feel like he saw it. He looked at it and he said, "You're gonna die tonight, mother." And he reached for it, but he reached, like I felt his arm going down to my side, and I grabbed it, and I just grabbed my firearm, and I shot him one time. Yes, sir, he was on top of me like this, and I shot him. And I didn't think I hit him, because he sat up, and he said, "Oh, you got me. You got it, you got me, you got it," something like that. So I thought he was just saying, "I know you have a gun now, I heard it, I'm giving up." So I don't know if I pushed him off me, or he fell off me. Either way, I got on top of him and I pushed his arms apart.
Joining me now is Michael Eric Dyson, MSNBC political analyst and professor of sociology at Georgetown University, Karen DeSoto, a criminal defense attorney, and Danielle Cadet, editor for Huffington Post Black Voices. Great to have you here. So this, it was really riveting watching George Zimmerman in these various incarnations of him in various states of tape, being interviewed, debriefed by a police officer, by Serino, doing this walk and talk where he's sort of describing it. One question just strategically, as in terms of a trial law question. Okay. Karen, why, if you're the prosecution, it basically amounted weirdly to watching George Zimmerman testify about the events that night. It felt like this bizarre one-sided situation in which there's a thing that happened between two men, one of whom is dead, the other one shot him, and he is the one there in court describing what happened. Why would the prosecution people be playing all that tape?
Well, because it's actually very uncommon to have statements and video. Usually that doesn't happen in a normal criminal case. You don't get that much information. But there's always inconsistencies between videotape, multiple statements, and that's one thing that you want to show, that what he said on one day was different what he said on the next. So that's definitely why the prosecutor was bringing that up. So
they were, I mean, and they were pointing out, obviously, the prosecution was pointing out ways in which the story was changing. What was striking to me was every time that he talks about Trayvon Martin, I just saw White House Down this weekend. It's the first Hollywood action movie I've seen in a very long time. It was awesome. By the way, it's like really incredible. Every word out of this character, Trayvon Martin, sounds like some action movie villain. Like, "Tonight's the night you're gonna die, and you got me," and do you have there's another point where he pops out of the darkness and he says, "You have a problem, you got a problem now." It's like all these bizarrely zingy, movie-esque statements. And did that sound strange to you? That was what really struck me.
That's actually what sounded the strangest to me. I mean, if you're talking about a 17-year-old boy from Miami, he doesn't sound like he would talk like this. Nobody really sounds like they would.
Right, that's the point. It's
like
17-year-old boy
shot saying, "You got me." I mean, like, you've watched either there one too many superhero movies or one too many thug movies. This is not Juice. Like, when he said that, that struck me as extremely odd, because what individual gets shot and all of a sudden says, "You got me"? I don't think that would be the first thing that would come out of anybody's mouth.
Absolutely. And the point is that, first of all, according to his friend Rachel, he was creepy cracker.
Right.
Now he switches to a Hitchcockian Vertigo by You Got Me, so he switches genres.
Right.
We are the figments of the imagination of people with dark intent. And George Zimmerman proves that a set of beliefs that we've been arguing about for the last 10, 15 years about racial stereotype, about profiling, become material.
Well, so that is precisely what is before the jury in certain ways, and not specifically. I mean, we should be clear here, right? The judge has ruled pre-trial that specifically invoking the term racial profiling is out of bounds. You can use profiling but not racial profiling. Right. The subtext, of course, of all of this is, why is George Zimmerman so obsessed with this kid and why is he tracking him? And the reason that's materially relevant to getting a conviction is, right, Karen, because of what the burden of proof is the prosecution for this very high charge of second-degree murder.
Exactly, and I think that that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that the degree that you have here. The prosecutor decided to go with a second-degree murder, not manslaughter. So when you're talking about the standard, which is an unlawful killing of a human being perpetrated by any act imminently dangerous, and here's the kicker, evincing a depraved mind. Depraved mind beyond a reasonable doubt is an extremely high standard. Depraved means perverted intent, evil, corrupt. So that's a very high standard. I don't think people really understand that that's the instruction that the jurors are going to get.
Yeah, and it's difficult. I mean, I have sympathy for that person who made that decision, because on the one hand, if he doesn't go second-degree murder, black people go, really? I mean, my life is worth like manslaughter?
That's exactly right.
So I feel sympathy for that. And then to overrule the ability to talk about racial profiling as a judicial component of this case underscores again why it makes a difference to have people as actors and as producers, as judges and as lawyers.
Well, and also I think that the irony here is that whatever the eventual outcome of this, but if the outcome, and I'm not saying it will, but were the outcome to end in an acquittal, immediately people will be like, well, they overcharged. But of course, overcharge was done in the context of this horrible thing that had happened.
Of course.
And
if they had gone any lower than a second-degree manslaughter charge, I mean,
second-degree murder, you're saying?
I'm sorry, second-degree murder charge. There would have been people would have been outraged.
If it were manslaughter, you would not have to. If it were manslaughter, you would not have. The depraved mind is particular to the second-degree murder charge.
It would be more of a negligent. They would still use the self-defense, obviously, but it would be a negligence standard, which is a lot lower and probably easier for a prosecutor to argue. Same thing in the Casey Anthony. They charged for a first-degree murder when they couldn't prove intent and they couldn't even prove why the child died. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind.
Here's the other thing about watching the video today, particularly the walkthrough. Could we show a little of that B-roll of that walkthrough video? The thing that struck me was, man, that dude looks like he's pretty messed up. Like he kind of got beat up. Like, and I remember when the photos first came out, there were scratches in the back of the head. I was like, that's not. But when you see his nose in this, it's like, okay, he took something in the face. And so then the question becomes, okay, what if? And I want to like open this hypothetical and answer when we come back. What if everything Zimmerman says about how it all went down is true? Like, is it still? What I want to say from the standpoint of justice, and not necessarily the law, is it's still not okay that this kid is dead. And like that is what I find myself getting worked up about as I'm following the trial. So I want to discuss that right after we take this break.
He said, "You got a problem now." And then he was here and he punched me in the face. I stumbled and I fell down and he pushed me down. Somehow he got on top of me.
On the grass or on the slope?
It was more over towards here. I think I was trying to push him away from me. That's when I started screaming for help. I started screaming, help, help, as loud as I could. And then is when he grabbed me. I tried to sit up, and that's when he grabbed me by the head and tried to slam my head down.
That's George Zimmerman speaking to local police right after, a day or two after Trayvon Martin was shot. Joining me is Michael Eric Dyson, MSNBC political analyst and professor of sociology at Georgetown University, Karen DeSoto, criminal defense attorney, and Danielle Cadet, editor for Huffington Post Black Voices. We're talking, of course, about day 6 of the George Zimmerman trial. That account that George Zimmerman gives there in that taped interview differs from some of the other testimony we've heard and what other eyewitnesses may have heard. And But I kept thinking, okay, fine. Maybe everything you're saying about that is right. Maybe he jumped you, but it's like you followed him. You followed him. You precipitated this whole thing. So if it ends up coming to be the case that you precipitated him and you tracked him for no reason other than he was a suspect in your mind, and then it went down the way you said, and this dude beat the crap out of you because you were following him, then you get to shoot him, and what?
But you're making the point, because this is the frailty of or I think the inherent injustice of the stand your ground law. Because who can stand their ground? Right. You jump on me, you ambush me, you have a set of stereotypes in your mind, and then I cream you. I'm getting the best of you. Oh, you're going to beat me? No, I'm clowning.
But the standard here isn't even stand your ground. They don't even have to invoke stand your ground. This is just self-defense, right?
This is self-defense. There is no. So I mean, obviously, this was a tragic accident, but I think that the Trayvon Martin's parents has a great case against the state of Florida, because the concealed weapon is the problem here. But no states allow people to have concealed weapons on their person.
Yeah, Texas.
Texas. Well, and we could talk about Texas because there's a lot of cases out of there. But allowing somebody to have a concealed weapon is like having a toddler with a machete.
Well, when you watch all this, I mean, the other thing that kept coming out to me is like, I just wish we could go back in time and take the gun out of this equation.
Right.
More than anything, more than any single magic wand that I could wave.
Because if you think about it, that's the reason why he felt comfortable pursuing this.
Yes, right.
At the end of the day, when the cop says, "Why are you out of your car?" and if you think about it, with all the other witnesses, everybody has said, "I didn't want to get involved."
Yeah, everyone's staying inside.
Right. I didn't even want to call the cops. I didn't want to have anything to do with this. And for some reason, George Zimmerman is the only person out of everybody in this community who felt comfortable pursuing this suspicious individual.
Because he had a gun on him.
Because he had a gun. And here's the point: you can be in the wrong. You can pursue somebody. The cops told him, "Don't do it." The 911, don't do it. He goes and does it anyway. So now I, as the victim of George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin gets killed because he's defending himself against a guy who has a jumble of stereotypes and this hero belief that he is the super cop and he's going to beat this person down. It's a perfect storm of all that's bad.
But the legal problem is this: it wasn't illegal for him to follow somebody. It wasn't illegal for him to have a concealed weapon. It wasn't legal for him to even talk to him.
You're saying illegal? It wasn't illegal?
Yeah, it wasn't illegal. So therein lies the problem. So what is at the core of this?
What would clear the bar? I mean, I can't ask you to read the mind of the jury, but like if you're talking about what this depraved mind would mean, I mean, to me, it's like that's the thing I think we watch throughout this week, right? It's like increasingly to me that emerges as this really difficult standard, first of all, and second of all, this question of it ends up being fundamentally a character assessment of who this person is in that moment, more than it ends up being about what the witnesses are saying about who's on top of who at what.
And how do we intuit character?
Yeah.
If we switch the colors of those two guys, this is a completely different outcome.
Absolutely. MSNBC analyst Michael Eric Dyson, criminal defense attorney Karen DeSoto, and Danielle Cadet from the Huffington Post. Thank you all.
Thank you.